Now, as I said earlier, the lower deck is hung from the upper deck by way of long wrought iron rods, at the ends of which, holding up the road, are these large plates. They're adjusted by wedges, which you can barely see because they're so badly rusted. But whilst English Heritage wanted to preserve as much of the rods as possible, they are, as I mentioned earlier, hidden inside the columns. So the contractors came up with a clever idea of performing keyhole surgery, cutting into the columns, then replacing only the damaged part of the original with a new bit. They then finished off with a new plate and a wedge at the bottom. Unfortunately, the longitudinal beams which carried the roadway were far worse, a total write-off. Don't worry, they're still in place, and they've been repaired and painted, but they no longer carry any weight. Instead, a system of over and under beams was built alongside each original beam, connected by new steel cross girders. To keep the bridge stable as work progressed, they had to be installed in an exact sequence. Below the roadway, the ends of the main arches are connected by wrought iron chains to stop them spreading apart. Fortunately, they were in reasonable condition, and wherever there was corrosion, it could be repaired with steel plates. Finally, the entire chain was sealed to prevent water damage in future. In fact, rainwater has always been one of the bridge's worst enemies, so dealing with drainage has been a major part of the work. On the rail deck, they had to dig out the ballast from one of the tracks to get to the drainage channels and replace every one of them in stages at the weekends. On the road deck, drainage repairs proved even more tricky because the drains were hidden inside the masonry piers and there was no way of getting at them. After a lot of head scratching and consultation, it was decided the neatest and most effective solution was to fit cast iron downpipes on the outside of each pier, which were attached by blokes on ropes. Sooner them than me. Everybody got very excited when it came to laying the timbers for the road, because it meant the job was almost complete. They used massive great slabs of hardwood, way stronger than the original timbers. It was like laying a giant parquet floor, each piece cut to fit, and this timber is harder to cut or drill than concrete. Yeah, they knew it would fit really. In went the drainage gullies alongside the road, and then large concrete curbs to which they would attach crash barriers to protect the columns from accidental traffic damage. The timbers were thoroughly waterproofed, and then a road was laid just like any other modern road. Meanwhile, the footpaths were getting a similar treatment, with the additional safety feature of rolling an anti-slip pattern into the surface while it was still setting. Underneath each span, back in the 1950s, they'd fitted inspection gantries, which were now in a pretty poor state. So they would lower down to the river and floated away for restoration. The conservationists insisted they were painted grey, so they'd stand out as a later addition. And when these huge gantries were winched back up and reinstalled, they ran absolutely smoothly again. You still wouldn't get me up in one, no, but... Finally, a few items for all collectors of fascinating facts. First, the paintwork is now restored to its original cream colour of 1849. In all, they sprayed on 5 coats. That's 75,000 litres. So it shouldn't need a lick of paint for another 25 years. They took down all the old gas lamps and converted them to electricity. And while they were cleaning them, they found some really lovely patterns hidden under the layers of paint. Just like they did on the handrails. And they cast replacement lamp bases for the completely worn out originals on the rail deck. There's so much more I could tell you. It's been a massive job and a challenging job. A job full of headaches and heartaches, calling for traditional craft skills alongside the very latest technology. But what has it meant to the blokes who put in the graft?
This is the most challenging thing I've ever came across.
Really, when we first come on, the paint, just looking at the paintwork, it looked in such a state until they started to blast it, and you've seen all the workmanship, i.e. the lampposts and stuff like that. Some of the features that were on the lampposts, just unbelievable.
It gives you a new insight in how the jobs were made, rivets and everything, you know what I mean? We weren't used to riveting and everything. And looking back, how good they were in them days, you know.
It's like a jigsaw. You put 90% of the pieces together and you can't really see the picture. Then all of a sudden you just put 1 or 2 pieces in and you can just see the whole project come together. It's been fantastic.
I think the most filling one for me was the last timber when I went in on the road. I can honestly say I had the lump on my throat when I actually went in.
We've all worked as a great team. It's just been really good. One of the best experiences I've had.
Well, they've been on here for 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years. They've all did their contribution, and the end product wouldn't be the same without all the contribution from the lads.
The workmanship's been spot on, all the lads have been spot on, crack's been good. I really enjoyed the job, and it'll be sad to see it come to an end.
I'll miss the camaraderie of the workforce who have taken a pride in working on such a lovely structure.
There's been some good men on here. We've worked as a good team, and it'll be sad when the job's finished when we part our ways.
At its peak, 30 managers and 160 operatives were working 24 hours a day, 12 days a fortnight in all weathers. Stevenson and Harrison may not be around to shake the hands of their successors, but I bet they would if they could. The owners, Network Rail, the conservation teams of English Heritage, Newcastle Council and Gateshead Council, the boffins at the University of Manchester and the National Archives, the Railway Heritage Trust and the many skilled metalworkers of the North East, and above all the engineers, Mott MacDonald, and the contractors, May Gurney. At last, there they all were, gathering for the grand reopening. Everybody's representative speaking fine words about this fine structure. But amidst the celebrations and the hoopla, the historic costumes and the vintage vehicles making their first trip across the restored road deck, there was a stirring deep in the heart of every Geordie, and a small but persistent voice in his ear. It said, "Thank you. This mighty structure is at last as beautiful as when it was first built. But it's taken 7 years, so if you don't mind, we'd like our bridge back now."